Hello, this is AstrologerCoach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon on February 18th at 6:47 p.m. East Coast time in the US, which is also New York time, or 3:37 p.m. West Coast time in the US, which is also LA time. Now, this new moon will be again in Aquarius, this time in the very last degree of Aquarius, in 29 degrees and 59 minutes of Aquarius, which is only 1 minute away from moving into Pisces. So it's really on the threshold between Aquarius and Pisces where this new moon is taking place. And this is an invitation to go from identifying as a member of the human race to connecting more to the oneness that we have with all things on an energetic level, and really all the things that all of creation, in a sense, recognizing on many levels that there are different levels of reality, different levels of consciousness, that we're able to tap into different things, not just on a mental level, but also on an intuitive level and on a spiritual level. Now, this aspect also invites us to surrender our mind and drop more into our hearts. So being on that cusp, on that threshold, is really about moving from the head to the heart, and to allow ourselves to see that everything is divine and everything is perfect, no matter what it is, whether it appears that way to the human mind or not, because perfection is something that's obviously in the eyes of the beholder. However, when it comes to seeing things from a wider consciousness, where we're really tapping more into the spiritual aspect of things, everything is perfect all the time. There is no such thing as non-perfection. So this new moon, of course, is also the beginning of a new lunar cycle. And it's the perfect time for planting seeds and setting intentions for the next 28 days, like we do every month at the time of the new moon. So the best and most potent times for that is something that I'm going to mention at the end of this video. But before we talk about that, I want to mention a little bit more about the energy of the new moon, so you know how to align your intentions with the new moon energy of this month. Now, the last 5 new moons have been in exalted degrees of a sign, which usually means that a new moon is either in 0 degrees or in 29 degrees. Both of those degrees are exalted degrees, because one is the very beginning of a sign, the other one is the very end of a sign. And so these last 5 new moons, since the solar eclipse in October in Scorpio, we've experienced all the new moons have been in 0 degrees, and now this one is in 29 degrees. So each one really opens new pathways and new possibilities for us. And so this is really a period that we've been in since October that has to do with significant initiations, that we're being initiated of some sort into these new things. And what's more is that the new moon is also the second of 6 supermoons that we'll be experiencing this year. So a supermoon also is a very significant thing, because it generates greater gravitational and electromagnetic pulls and forces. And so this affects, of course, us humans on a physical and emotional level. But it affects everything on the planet. But for us as human beings, we're definitely feeling it on a physical and emotional level. So if there's anything that's coming through physically or emotionally speaking, that has to do with these strong electromagnetic and gravitational forces that are happening. And whenever we have experiences like that, physical or emotional experiences that are out of the norm, or that are more forceful or more greater than what we normally experience, this creates a greater shift in consciousness, because we're being forced to look at our own lives and our own experiences in a different way than we have before. It sort of like jolts us out of our habits and out of our routines. Now, all of this heightening stuff that's happening with the Aquarian energy with this new moon is definitely sending a powerful invitation for us to open ourselves up to the new, especially in the area of life that the new moon falls into in your own birth chart. So you can take a look to see where is 29 degrees and 59 minutes in your own birth chart, and then that house and that area of your life is definitely going to be very strongly affected. Now, what's more is that also Mercury is still in Aquarius, as it also was during the last new moon. However, it's no longer retrograde. It was retrograde for a while. And so now it's in a direct motion. And that also emphasizes the Aquarian energy. And also, now that it's direct, it's going to be much easier to make the changes that we've been wanting to make in our lives and to really step into the new stuff, into the newness of things, and stepping more into these shifts that we've been thinking about or talking about for the past 4 weeks. Now, thinking outside the box is still going to be highly recommended during this lunar cycle, just as last month. We also want to try and live there as much as possible, make adjustments as needed, find creative solutions as needed, be flexible as much as possible, and as best as we can depart from our normal routines, what we consider normal. You know, anything that you feel like is sort of like something where you're in a rut, or something where you've been there for years and it's just no longer that fulfilling to you. It's just something you do because it's familiar and because you're used to it. That's the kind of thing we want to pay attention to. So where are you still holding on to the old? That's a great question that you can ask yourself. And another question you can ask yourself with this new moon is, if you stepped off the beaten path and you just did something slightly different than you've done before, is it at least possible that you might find something truer to who you have become? So basically, you know, like, we all change all the time, but very often we stick to routines and behaviors and thinking structures that we've had since we were little, since our childhood, and we don't shift those. So, but if you're shifting and you're not shifting these behaviors and these thinking structures, then you're going to get stuck at some point. You know, you're going to feel trapped at some point because you're not really truly going with the sign of the times, right? Now, the new moon also forms a really, really potent position because it's exactly at the midpoint between Uranus in Aries and Pluto in Capricorn. So those two positions are in 15 degrees of Aries and Capricorn right now. And so this position of the new moon, which is almost in 0 degrees of Pisces, like a minute away from 0 degrees of Pisces, is basically the midpoint between those two planets. And that midpoint is important because that gives us the information about where we can find resolutions between this square, between these two planets that's been going on since 2011 already. So the resolution in question is connected to the final Uranus-Pluto square that will be exact on March 16, but which we're already basically, and we're already feeling it because these planets move so slowly that we're already experiencing the pull and push and pull of that square. So it's all about the shift from only intellectual understanding to a deeper understanding that takes us into a greater understanding of the interconnectedness and interdependence that we have with all things, with everything that exists. And so that we're not just understanding what that is on an intellectual level, but that we're also living from that place, that we're literally be able to be present to that fully with our heart as well, not just on a mental level. Now, what you want to watch out for with this new moon is really heightened intuitive or imaginative or expanded states of consciousness right around the time of the new moon, especially right after the time of the new moon, because the new moon actually shifts, like within 10 minutes of the new moon, the sun and the moon switch into Pisces. So we're so on the cusp of Aquarius and Pisces that there's something that's going to shift also for us on an energetic level as well. So pay attention to that if you can. And I would say the last thing I would say is that if this new moon had one message, it would probably be love is all there is, which is something that the Beatles have been thinking about, singing about as well, right? So it sounds a little corny, but it's kind of what the Pisces message is about, right? Or the message of that cusp is about. And everything else besides love is really an illusion, or it's conditioning. It's something that we've been conditioned into, because if you think about it, when you're a baby, when you're born, You are pure love. That's exactly what you are. And then you start to grow up and you get conditioned, and usually our conditioning happens within the first 7 years of our lives. So we really don't have much control over that. It's just something that sort of like we experience, and it's part of the human journey. It's part of the human experience. So it's very important that we're open to that we're open to embracing our own conditioning rather than judging it. But at the same time, also being open to bringing consciousness to it and to see, okay, well, I can see that this is my conditioning. Is this still viable for me right now as an adult? And is this something that I want to still do as an adult? And how can I shift that? So very important is awareness and consciousness. And the second thing that I always say is extremely important is compassion. We need to be compassionate with ourselves, because it's just part of being human. We come in as love. Then we enjoy a conditioning through our environment and our parents and siblings and caregivers, and things shift, and we have new settings that we're operating from. But the whole thing about being an adult is that we have choice, and that choice means that we can pay attention to this conditioning, and we can shift it through compassion and through being open and aware. Now, if you have any planets or personal points anywhere in your birth chart between 27 and 29 degrees of Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, or Scorpio, or between 0 and 2 degrees of Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, or Sagittarius, then this new moon is definitely going to affect you very strongly, and you're going to feel very much these strong pulls and everything we talked about in the video. But even if you don't have personal planets or personal points in your birth chart that fall in those degrees and signs, you look at the house placement, just like I mentioned earlier. Look to see what house does this degree fall into, and this area of your life is going to be very much resonating with what we talked about in the video. Now, if you're a little bit confused about what I'm sharing here with the degrees and the points and the planets and the house placements, feel free to watch my video about how to read your birth chart. It is available on YouTube and on my website. It's a 30-minute video, very simple, just talking about how you can apply my videos and my weekly blogs to your birth chart, how you can make that fit. If you have a hard time finding the video on YouTube or on my website, then feel free to email info@astrologercoach.com and just write recording in the subject line, and then my assistant will email you a high-res recording of the video and some handouts that go with the class as well. Okay, so that's definitely available. Feel free to do that. And of course, let's talk a little bit about intention settings, right? Because this is also the beginning of a new lunar cycle, and so it's always the perfect time to plant new seeds, to set intentions. It's an introverted time. We're going within. We're getting more connected to what it is that we want to do for the next 28 days. And so the best time, or the most potent time to do that, is right after the new moon becomes exact. And you want to make sure that the moon is not void of course during the time that you set your intentions. Now, this month, the best and most potent time to set intentions would be any time between 6:48 p.m. on February 18th, New York time, and 6 p.m. on February 19th, also New York time. So if you live in a different time zone than New York time or East Coast time, then feel free to Google time zone converter on the internet and just plug in the East Coast time or the New York time, and then just put your own place where you live, wherever that is in Europe or Australia or somewhere else in America. Put your own place, your town in, and then it will convert it to your own time zone. And if that's a little bit too complicated or too confusing, which I understand sometimes that can be, then feel free to join me on Twitter or on my Facebook fan page. I will always make announcements for the new moon intention settings. So just join me and just watch out for that on February 18th and February 19th. And I will, on both days, I will make an announcement for that. And then that way you just know now is my time to set intentions. Okay? That will be the easy way. And then if you watch this video after those dates, you can still set your intentions. It may not be the most potent time to set intentions, but you can still do it. And the only thing you want to watch out for is don't set your intentions during a moon void, of course. That's important. And if you don't know when that is, then please feel free to go to my website or to my Facebook fan page. I always mention the moon void, of course, phases in my weekly forecasts and in my daily postings on my Facebook fan page. So you can go to AstrologerCoach.com and click on Astrology Forecast 2015. You will find my weekly forecasts there. You can also subscribe to them and then get them sent to you via email on that same page. So that's available too. Or on my Facebook fan page at AstrologerCoach.SonjaFrancis. I also wanted to mention one last thing. I will be making an announcement about my upcoming courses that I will be teaching on February 19th. So right after the new moon becomes exact, via my newsletter. So if you are not currently on my mailing list and you would like to receive my newsletter and you would like to get this announcement about an upcoming course that I'll be teaching in Sedona in the end of May, or another course I'll be teaching in the end of June in New York. If you want to hear in more detail what that's about and how you can join me live and learn astrology, about astrology and what I'm teaching live, then definitely feel free to reach out to info@astrologercoach.com and just write newsletter in the subject line, and then I will add you to my mailing list. And if you could just add Sonja@astrologercoach.com to your safe list or to your address book, that would be helpful so the emails don't land in your junk mail. Or check your junk mail folder after you've emailed me and make sure that the email didn't land in your junk mail, and then mark it as not junk mail. So again, the email is Sonja@astrologercoach.com. That's SONJA@astrologercoach.com. And if you have any general questions about astrology, I'm always happy to answer those via email. However, if it's something personal that requires me to pull up a birth chart for you, then I will ask you to book a reading, because that requires much more of my time. And unfortunately, I do have limited time available. There's only 24 hours in a day, and I want to make sure that I can support people as best as I can, and also take care of myself at the same time. So sometimes, it requires a balancing act, as you all know. And so these are the requirements for getting a reading with me and for connecting with me. So have a fantastic new moon, and remember, this is an introverted time. This is a time where we go within. It's not yet a time to take action. If you want to take action, you want to wait a couple of days after the new moon. I usually do make announcements for that as well in my weekly blog and on my Facebook fan page and my daily postings, so you can always stay aligned with when that's a good time to start to take action after the new moon as well, by joining me on my website or on my Facebook fan page. All right, have a good one. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.